And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who come in late, we are now having a little cooking session right here on the scene, putting the pot on in here. And we like for you to join in with us and have a ball.
Hi, this is Dara. Welcome back to our series on creating our web projects in Notion and setting up the space for our design pattern library. So last time we set up styles and elements. This time we're going to be working on setting up the structure for components. So I'm coming to my components page, and let's go ahead and maybe there might be some overview. All right, so again, I'm going to link in that patterns table that we've created. I want to show it as a list. All right, so the things that I'm going to want is I'm going to create this, I'm going to create a template for component group. And on here, I'm a fan of having space to remind people to write a little bit of an overview. It's easy enough to delete the space if you don't use it, but this, there should be some kind of preamble. Oh boy. Okay, create linked database patterns. So just like I did with the elements, I'm putting a copy of the table inside, and I'm just going to show the items in here that are children of this component. So we're going to remind people to filter by group. Okay. And then I'm going to put another template that's just going to be the components template. If you can hear my dog barking in the background, please ignore. He is outside and having the time of his life, barking at leaves flying down the street, I'm sure. Okay, so I want to show the design. Functionality. Specifications. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and put a table here. And I want people to rename this table, because otherwise all the specifications table will have the same name. That's going to be a mess. The things that I want in the table is the name is fine. I want to have an ID. So if I've gone in on my design and I've put like those little notation numbers on it, then that should speak back down to this. And in fact, we might even move. No, I'm going to keep the design where it is. All right, so I've got, let's open this up. name, field type, okay, so here, I mean, Notion doesn't have the ability to do like a table that's not like a database. So, you know, we're kind of forced into this structure because I actually don't need this. Like, maybe I might open something up and put in here, but I don't need that. I really just need these properties that are describing, you know, this design. All right. So if I come back, so this is why eventually we're going to pull out all the tables, because you see my breadcrumb, it's leading me back to the patterns table, but I actually want my breadcrumb to lead me back to components. So eventually these are going to be up here and not down here. So let's go ahead and filter this. Oops. And I might do something like a good component group. Oh, I want to just in the filter. I don't want to show the subgroups. So group is empty. All right. So maybe a good example of a group would be the global. And it's funny they're called global components, not elements. Just so our names are the same. And so when I come here and filter, I'm going to call this global. And then things that we'd put in here would be like the header. Okay. And if we go back, then maybe something else we put in here is obviously the footer. And oops, to say component, that autofills. So now one thing that's interesting to know, like there are some, like when you're developing your pattern library, you're kind of building it from both directions. So there's some things that are like obvious that you're going to have to figure out and put in your library, like the colors and the typography, or these base components like the global components, headers, footers, navigation. Like that stuff is going to, you know, it's going to be said. But some components are going to appear as you're designing things out. So, you know, if you remember way back when we were talking about scenarios, we showed that there was going to be, you know, a login box. So that is a component. So let's go ahead and put, you know, login. We showed that there's going to be some search functionality. So I'm going to create search. Now, search is one that it's weird. I do search as both a page and a component, mostly because I like to, you know, there's going to be that search widget. So let's make this a component group. And in the group, did I not save that as the part of the filter? So in the group, I'll have that search widget, which could live in multiple places. It might be in the header. It might be like in a page that's not the search page. You know, it could be in various different pages. So I want to create that as a component that's separate from the search page. The other thing that I also do is I do all the different various aspects of the search page as components. So I might have like, you know, the search filters that I talk about at the component level, and then I will pull that into the search page specification, which is great because if you have multiple experiences besides just your search, like for instance, we have on the client I have now, we have a search experience, but then they also have a bunch of these resource lists where you want to search the resource list, but it's just a search for that list, not a search of site, but it has similar functionality. So if I'm, once I've said this is how filters function, I shouldn't create a new way for filters to function unless necessary. So I could use that, that spec on both of those pages. All right. So again, like once these things, once we've completed them, we can start to pull them out into page. So let's go in here and just do the properties real quick. Status and assigned. It might be, no, there's not going to be anything that shows group because the groups are buried in. All right, so that's going to be our components. Let's skip over these two for a second because they have a deeper explanation, and I'm going to do that in the next video. Let's go ahead and do templates because templates are it's just the next level up. So for templates, those are going to be your page, your page templates. Like I said, we had the search page, for instance. Let's create another template for the templates. All right, so the pattern type is template. Is that what I called them here? I called them... That's another thing that libraries help with, is to make sure that you're using the same terminology that's agreed upon. So for instance, if you're talking about at the top of a page, of a web page where you see like a big, large image that kind of grounds the page, that has different names. So sometimes it's called a hero, sometimes it's called a feature. AOL, we used to call those dynamic leads. I know Oasis, or Overstock.com calls it Oasis. So, you want to agree on the name that you call things, which is another thing that libraries really help to, set up for you. Okay, so by layout here, I mean like which layout is it going to be? And we're going to talk about what layouts are in the next section, so... Oops, I can't spell example. So I like to put example design. So maybe there's, we've already designed out 2 pages that use this template. And so we can put them here as examples of how they look, especially if you have a page where, sometimes a component's there and sometimes it's not. So maybe it's like, like a blog page. What does it look like when it has it's a video blog and it has a video element? And what does it look like when there's an image element? And what does it look like when it's just text? Those might be different examples that I show of the same template. And I like to put in here so the draft wireframes, those would be temporary, and by wireframes it could be hand sketches, whiteboard sketches, whatever it is that you use as your first iteration. But in the end, there should be hopefully a full high resolution color comp available. Even if you do let's say you design and you do it in code, so that I had one project where we would take the sketch and the developers would we already had a good pattern library support, so there's already a full blown CSS created. So if they just followed convention, like this is an H1, this is a paragraph, this is a button, it already picked up the styles and colors it's supposed to have. So maybe we just took a screenshot of that, and that's what lives here, that there was no official, like, color comps created by Sketch or, Photoshop or whatever, that it maybe just a screenshot of the developed build. But in the end, I want something that, looks like the actual thing that we intend to be live on the site. So this is page level functionality, like if there's something at the level of the page. So for instance, for search, I showed you already that I'm going to be given the functionality of the different components that are on search. But at the page level of search, like what does it look like when it first loads? So my search is going to, I put in a keyword and I got results based off of that keyword. It's going to show 15 to start with, and they're going to be ordered by the most recent, right? That's kind of the page level functionality that I would want to put here. This is not H3. There we go. So my page level specifications is a little different, like you saw before I did like a table. This, I might still have a table that I put it in ultimately, but I don't want to pre-subscribe that. But I am going to say like, hey, these are the different components that live on the page. So on a search page, I've got like, the search header with the sort and view by, and it's got the filters, in this portion, like the left rail of the page, etc. But this is the place where I want to talk about authoring. So how on the back end do we get this information into the page? So I do want to set that up here. Let's go ahead and change this view to list. All right, so that sets up our templates area, and once we start working on this, like how the templates come about, that's going to make more sense. But think of templates as our pages, right? So we're going to have those recipe pages. There's going to be a recipe page template. All the pages are going to be based off of the same structure, right? There's going to be the menu page template. So you can think of this as templates, or you can think of the pages, whatever vocabulary works for your team. But I'm just going to go ahead and call them templates. All right, so that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.